Hello, and welcome back to Football League World TV. It's a new week, and that means it can be only time for the weekend review show. I'm your host, George Dagless. Joining me this Monday morning are Alfie Burns and Ben Wignall. Alfie, how are you getting on? Good weekend?
Yeah, not too bad. Thank you, George. How about you?
Yeah, it was all right, pretty quiet. I was saying to Ben before we came on, I fell asleep at 9 p.m. last night. So, yeah, I'm awake now, though. That's the main thing. Ben, how are you getting on?
Yeah, very well. We've had Championship football back this week, so very exciting stuff.
Yeah, and certainly some good games to get our teeth stuck into. So let's start the Championship. We kick off with Sheffield United finally getting their first win in the league at the weekend. A pretty emphatic result as well, 6-2 win over Peterborough. It was actually level at half time, which suggests that obviously the second half was particularly impressive for the Blades. Alfie, let's come to you first of all with this. A much needed result for Savica Jokanovic and Sheffield United, and potentially signs that the international break over the course of it, the players that were obviously available for Jokanovic to work with, he seems to have got his message across at last.
Yeah, massive win, and it's so important to get that first win of the season, and it just lifts sort of spirits at Bramall Lane. They've got a quick turnaround to play Preston tomorrow night, and all of a sudden the supporters aren't sort of dreading trips to Bramall Lane, and there's something there to feed off moving forwards.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you look at the goal scorers as well. I mean, a number of players getting in on the action. Iliam and Dye had a really impressive performance, 2 goals for him. Obviously, John Fleck getting a goal from midfield, a couple for Ben Osborne as well, and Morgan Gibbs-White getting on the score sheet too. Do you think Alfie Jokanovic is starting to find that attacking method that's going to work for the Blades? Obviously, he's got a real plethora of talent in that team, but looks like potentially starting to find the dynamic that's going to get them up the league table.
Yeah, I mean, you've touched on a lot of players there, but in Dye and Gibbs-White have just brought a real freshness to the attack, and you've obviously got Billy Sharp as well there, who it's strange to see Sheffield United score 6 goals, him be on the pitch and not get involved, but 3 assists, so he's bringing something different and clearly still very effective for Sheffield United. So yeah, I think obviously it's good to see so many players playing well in a win. It does bode well moving forward.
And as Alfie mentioned there, Ben, your team, Preston, they're going to Bramall Lane tomorrow night in the Championship. The games keep on coming. What did you make of Sheffield United's performance as a whole on Saturday, and how sort of worried are you going there as a Preston fan for your team?
Well, they certainly clicked. I think before the international break on one of the shows, I said that he might take this 2-week break for Jokanovic to get his message across to the players, and it's certainly done that in a way. I mean, I don't think anyone would have expected Ndai to be thrown straight into the starting lineup after signing a new contract. But he slotted in there in the attacking midfield role, and he's took his chance. He played like a seasoned pro. Well, the way he took them goals. That link up with Gibbs White as well looks very exciting. He seems to have clicked already in the couple of weeks they've spent in training together. And of course, with all them strikers, you've got Billy Sharp taking charge basically ahead of the likes of Brewster and McBurney. Obviously, he didn't score, but like Alfie said, 3 assists. He's still very much involved, and still at his age in his mid-30s, he's a top Championship striker, and he's showing that. Am I worried going into tomorrow? Probably, yeah. We've looked pretty solid the last few games. Dog interruption there. We've had 2 clean sheets against Peterborough and Bristol City in the last 3 games. But I think this is a bit of a step up in quality. We've got West Brom as well on Saturday. But I think Sheffield United are missing a few players anyway. They're missing Ben Davies, who I'll be hoping is not playing, because I wouldn't like to see him in another club's shirt in the Championship after we let him go. And they probably do look a little bit weak at the back, Sheffield United, with Robinson in there, with Egan. Obviously, Egan's a very good player, but I don't think the fans are convinced with Robinson still at centre-back. They've got Burge as well, who was out, who's obviously, if he comes back into the team, he's a top Championship and a good Premier League player. So on the basis of what I saw Saturday, sorry, I'm pretty worried going there, but I think the best we could hope for is probably a draw. But obviously, I'll be hoping and maybe take a sneaky little 1-0 if we can get it.
Yeah, see what happens. As for Peterborough, Ben, obviously Jack Marriott and Johnson Clark-Harris, the men on the score sheet. Do you think that's perhaps the one positive they can take from it? Obviously, they were level at half time as well, but the second half didn't particularly go to plan. But I guess if you want to look at some positives, if there are any, from a 6-2 defeat, you've got two of your strikers there getting amongst the goals at least.
Yeah, I think you know what you're going to get with a Darren Ferguson team, whatever level they're at. He likes to go on the attack. You won't really see his team sitting back. And I just think after the second half, at half time, Jokanovic probably fired a rocket up the backsides at Sheffield United players, and he just started to click in the end. And I think Peterborough's defence probably a little bit inexperienced at this level. But like you said, going forward, they do have some talents like Dembele, who didn't get on the score sheet, but he's shown quality so far in his opening few games. And even Clark Harris coming off the bench yesterday, it was obviously a penalty he scored, but I think that first goal he's got now in the Championship, the floodgates might start to open for him. And if Ferguson can get Marriott back to how he played a few years ago, obviously he had a little bit of a tough time at Derby. If he can score goals like he did on Saturday, then I think they probably will be down there at the bottom end of the table at the end of the season. But I think there's definitely reasons to be positive going forward. It's just that the defensive frailties they've got that I might be worried about as a Peterborough fan.
Okay, we'll see how the Posh do in recovering from that result. That leaves them in 23rd in the league table. Sheffield United have moved to 18th with their first win of the Championship season. Right, up next we're going to talk Reading QPR, which is another entertaining game at the Select Car Leasing Stadium. Hope I've said that in the right order. It was much easier when it was Medeski. Anyway, Reading raced into a 3-1 lead. John Swift, amongst the goals, having a fabulous season. His hat-trick looked like it was setting Reading well on the way to 3 points against QPR. But QPR, as they've shown at several points already this season, they've got plenty of character in their squad. Andre Gray getting them back in it, and then Stephanie Hansen getting a goal in injury time to salvage a point. Alfie, let's talk John Swift first of all. He's a player that has impressed Reading in the past. Perhaps at times, though, as a younger player, maybe he's getting a little bit of criticism over being inconsistent. That's perhaps natural for being a young player, but he seems to be, right on top of his game at the moment. And I guess the worry probably for Reading fans is if he keeps it up, and obviously Reading, their form doesn't improve as much as they need it to, he's going to be attracting interest before too long.
Yeah, absolutely. And Saturday just sort of underlined his quality. His hat-trick was really, really well taken. I think that although Reading will worry about him, potentially putting himself in the shop window or anything like that, they've got other problems to focus on at the minute. And I think that having John Swift at the top of his game is a plus for them, despite a disappointing start to the season. And I think that if Reading are to start climbing up the table, then they need Swift in this kind of form.
Obviously, Ben, as for QPR, we mentioned earlier that it's not the first time they've come back from behind. I mean, they did it at home to Barnsley. There were two goals down, and obviously got a late goal to salvage a point. They've done it again here at Reading. Obviously, Mark Warburton after the game said as well, how impressed he's been with the character of this Rangers team to not necessarily always get wins, but, get points on the board from positions where they look like they're not going to get them. So I guess the question is, have you seen enough now from these first few games for them to really look like they're coming good on being genuine playoff contenders at least this season?
Yeah, I think so. I still think those, obviously early in the season, those places are quite open from what I've seen of teams. But they've certainly got enough all over the pitch to be contenders. Obviously, you wouldn't expect them to concede 3 to a Reading team that have got very depleted attacking options, because Jao, Mate and Aziz are all out for a couple of months, I think. So I think Reading got to rely on Swift in the next few months. But with Dickey and whatnot at the back, you would have thought they might have contained him to maybe one goal. But they definitely got a lot of attacking nous going forward, as you say. And Andre Gray played and got his first goal on his debut. And I think he's someone that Mark Warburton, obviously, he's had him before at Brentford, and I think he can get the best out of him. And that goal was kind of like a typical Gray, just in the box at the right moment, the right time to poke it in. And I think, like you said, the character as well of the team. I think Reading did kind of go a bit defensive in the last few minutes. Pound brought Tom Holmes on for Puskas, which riled the fans up a bit because he didn't think it needed that much of a defensive shift. But they managed to break him down in the end. It was a big goal-mouth scramble, and Johansson put it in. So I think going forward, QPR have got a lot of reasons to be positive. The likes of Dykes and Austin as well, backing up Gray. that kind of experience and history of goal scoring at this level, I can't see him not being in the playoff race at the end of the season.
Okay, we'll see how that pans out. That result leaves Reading 22nd in the Championship, and QPR, as many of us may expect, playoff contenders at the moment, they're currently sitting in 4th in the Championship table. Before we move into League One, we've had a couple of comments come in, which is always good to see. Do get in touch if you're watching across Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, that kind of thing. Do send in your comments and let us know what you thought about the weekend. I've had one from Matt House, first of all. A shocker for Fulham. What did you make of that defeat for the Cottagers? Obviously lost 1-0 at Blackburn. Blackpool. Josh Bowler getting the goal for the Tangerines. Ben, a bit of a coupon buster, really, that one.
Yeah, it busted my coupon anyway. I didn't expect it. Blackpool have obviously had a bit of a tough start to life back in the Championship. Made a lot of signings that probably would be like top end League One, but you have a bit of a question mark if you could step up to the Championship. But getting the first win, especially against a team like Fulham, who obviously after the first 5 games up there with West Brom, you expect them to hardly lose a game all season with the talent they've got. I think they were missing a few players. Obviously, Anthony Robinson was playing, but he was playing for USA a few days before, and I think he was criticised for the goal that Bowler scored. He didn't end up putting a foot in the end, and he was criticised for that. And Fabio Carvalho missed out as well, which probably was a big miss considering the way he started this season. So it's definitely a surprise, but I think this could be a catalyst for Blackpool to build, and obviously they wouldn't have been expecting a win. So they'll think now that anything's possible going into their midweek fixture, and they could begrudgingly for me to watch have a little rise up the table.
Yeah, certainly a surprise result. One question for you as well, in particular, Alfie, given that you've covered Huddersfield so much in the last few years. What do you make of their result away at Stoke? Obviously, I should take a little bit of flack for this one because I did mention Huddersfield in our betting show as a potential value bet, the away win, because obviously they're going very well against the Stoke team that, again, has started very well, but lost away at Fulham before the international break. Harry Toffolo did put the Terriers in front, but Jacob Brown and a Matty Pearson own goal gave the Potters all 3 points. Alfie, do you think Corbyn will be too disappointed by this particular result?
Obviously, before the international break, Huddersfield were in really good form, 3 wins on the spin, and I think that, like you said, you were probably right to circle them as a potential, decent bet going into the weekend, given that. But there's no denying that Stoke are a decent team. I don't think there's any shame in losing to Stoke. I think that they'll be sort of in and around the top 10 this season. So to see Huddersfield competitive against them is good. Having taken the lead, it's probably disappointing to come away with nothing, especially away from home. But there's no need for alarm bells to be ringing at Huddersfield at all. They showed that they can, react to defeats really well before the international break, and it's going to be important to do that. In the next 2 games, I think I'm right in saying it's Blackpool and Nottingham Forest coming up this week for Huddersfield, and they're 2 very winnable games. And I think if they can return 4 or 6 points from those 2 fixtures, it'll only add to what's been a positive start.
Certainly will. Okay, let's move into League One. League One. I was trying to pick one game we could talk about. There was definitely a few to sort of filter through, the likes of Morecambe and Wimbledon playing out a 7-goal thriller, but I picked a different one. Ipswich and Bolton. Bolton running out 5-2 victors at Portman Road. Going back to the betting show on Friday, I did say that this could be over 5.5 goals at 12-1. It was worth a look, and it actually came in. So about the only time I'll get one right, I have to mention it. Ben, what did you make of Bolton's performance, first of all? They seem to be starting to really find some form. And Ian Evatt, after the game, said it was only a matter of time before they basically tonked someone. And that's kind of what they did at the weekend.
Yeah, well, they've kept the momentum up going in from the end of last season, obviously getting promoted from League Two. And I think they've kept a kind of consistent squad. They've made some loanees like Declan John and Afolayan permanent. And I think the signing of Afolayan on a permanent basis, he kind of lit up their team in the second half of last season, and I think it's only a matter of time if he puts in performances like he did on Saturday. The Championship teams will probably be looking at him, but they've got quality all over the pitch. They've got a mix of good younger players like Afolayan and players like George Thomason coming through, who played for my local team in a little town near Preston before he got snapped up by Bolton. He's kind of coming to the first team and he's making a name for himself there. But they've also got experience like Kieran Lee, being a championship player for a long time, Sheffield Wednesday. Alex Baptiste at the back, he's still going solid in his mid-30s. So I think Everett's got a good mix of players there. It's not a result I expected. I thought they might have shared the spoils. I don't think Ipswich are quite there yet, as we'll probably talk about. But I think for Bolton, the mood in the last 12 months off the pitch, the fans have been really upbeat after the struggles they've had in recent years, and I think that's transcended to the players, and their performances are no surprise, really.
Very impressive from the Trotters. Moves on up to third in the League One table. I guess, Alfie, it's probably fair to say that at the start of the season, not too many would have had them as playoff contenders this year. But, I mean, the way it's looking at the moment, you'd probably be a bit silly to rule them out from that. I mean, they'll be thinking, why can't we change for the top two, the way things are?
Yeah, I mean, I think they're using the momentum perfectly from promotion last season. I think that it's a really underrated thing in the EFL. I think when you see a side that's so used to winning and competing at the top of a division, moving into a league above, it's quite easy to sort of cash in on that and have a really positive start to the following campaign. Whether or not I think that they can last the distance and keep pace with the top clubs in League One, I'm not 100% sure, but they've got every chance of doing that if they build on this positive start. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens at Bolton.
Certainly, it's going better at Bolton than it is at Ipswich at the moment. I think that's fair to say. Nigel Thompson's been in touch. Says Paul Cook out, shocking display against Bolton. Do you think he's on thin ice? Ben, let's come to you first of all. Is Paul Cook on thin ice at the moment? There was definitely a fair few boos ringing around Portman Road at the weekend.
But it wouldn't surprise me if he was on thin ice. The results just haven't been good enough. I know that you can say he'd made 19 signings and you've got to give him time to gel, but they've had 2 week international break now where he should be getting to grips with each other and should be learning how each other play. And to see him concede 5 goals to Bolton, who are a decent side, but shouldn't really be happening at home, should it? They've got talent all over the pitch, and I think some championship clubs would be kind of envious of some of the business they've done this summer. But you've got to think the new American owners have backed Cook. They brought him in to replace Lambert when they were still kind of in and around the playoff places last season, and the fact they backed him so much this summer, you kind of get the feeling that they might give him a little bit more time to see if he can get anything out of the players. Sam Moisey didn't play on Saturday, and I think he will be straight into the team when he's available to try and give him a kick up the backside, because it seems to be a team with a lot of good individual players, but not a lot of. They don't seem to be playing as a team right now, and they might just need that one player to bring them all together and to get them firing. I think Moisey could be that player, but they clearly missed him not making his debut this weekend, because you don't expect a team of Ipswich's players to concede 5. But as for the actual question, I think Cook, he is on thin ice, but I can see him getting at least another month or 3 weeks to try and turn things around.
Yeah, I mean, I think I sort of echo that, Ben. I mean, obviously results need to come soon, particularly with the amount of changes that he obviously wanted to make in the summer, but he does need time to, I guess, blend them all together. Big games against Lincoln and Sheffield Wednesday coming up, though, so it's a real sort of, I guess, an opportunity for Ipswich to get things back on track, but also, a real potential banana skin for them coming up that's going to see them lose more ground in League One. Alfie, just quickly, what do you reckon on Paul Cook's situation? Does he have a little bit more time, or is it, already time for the axe to drop?
I think it's important that he gets a little bit more time. They've made a lot of signings over the summer, and I think it's only right that he gets the chance to work with that squad and see the improvement in that squad. Obviously, the 2 really tough fixtures coming up, but at the same time, Lincoln and Sheffield Wednesday are going to be looking at playing Ipswich and thinking, if they finally click and get it together, then it'll be equally as difficult for us, and maybe a result in these next couple of fixtures will start Ipswich's sort of climb up the table to where we maybe expected them to be this season.
Yeah, they certainly need to get going soon. Ipswich down in 22nd at the moment in the League One table. Bolton high flying up to 3rd. Right, let's move finally into League Two. Just the one game to talk about in League Two as well. Obviously, plenty of good results, but the one we've probably seen as a standout most was Exeter's big win at Scunthorpe United, a 4-0 victory for the Grecians, the likes of Jay Keaton dying on the score sheet, but Giovanni Brown perhaps deserved the goal as well. Very impressive. Exeter now up to 8th, Scunthorpe sitting in 22nd. I guess, Alfie, with Exeter, they're always those sort of perennial playoff contenders, and potentially this is the sort of result that can really springboard them into the next few weeks.
Yeah, I think we're starting to see Exeter sort of getting to the groove that we're so used to seeing them in League Two. I think they've picked up a couple of decent points over the last few weeks, and then obviously to dispatch Scunthorpe like this, it's the show of the top side that many of us think that they are. I think Jay's goals are massively important for them. They have been over the years, and they're going to be this season. He's already got a very good strike rate, and if they are going to be in that top 3 mix like I sort of predicted them to be pre-season, then his goals are going to be important. So this weekend, the result, the individual performances, it's very, very important, and Exeter are looking good.
Certainly are. As for Scunthorpe, perhaps not as good, I think it's fair to say, Ben. Conceded 11 so far in League Two, obviously another 4 at the weekend. Only scored 4, lost their last 2 games. It's still early days, but it's certainly a bit of a concerning start for the Iron, isn't it?
Yeah, I think he struggled at the back end of last season as well. And on our first debate show in the week, I did say they were the kind of losers of the transfer window in League Two. They've lost a lot of kind of experienced players, and it seems like they're cutting the cloth kind of accordingly with the players they brought in, as well as a lot of younger players on loan and a few players who've probably like Harry Bunn, who've played in the Football League, but probably not at that kind of level now. And I think it's showing in the early stages. But Exeter are a strong team for this level, and I'm not surprised he put a few past Scunthorpe. But I would be worried for Neil Cox's side. He's as a head coach, he's inexperienced as well. So I'd be concerned that he's probably not the best man to get him out of a situation like this. And if these results keep carrying on, I could see a more experienced manager perhaps coming in a month or two's time to try and arrest the slide if the results are still carrying on the way they are.
Have to see what happens there, certainly, especially with Sutton United below them finally getting their first win in League Two as well at the weekend. Right, that brings our weekend review to a close here on Football League World TV. Thank you everyone for watching and joining us. Thank you for the comments you sent in as well. Do keep them coming in the shows to follow. Later on today at 2:30, we've got the Coventry fan takeover. Chief editor Sam Rourke will be taking care of that one. And then at 4:00, Alfie Burns will be in my seat hosting the Yorkshire Roundup. Alfie, we should be looking forward to that, I would imagine.
Yeah, plenty to get our teeth into. We're gonna sort of touch on Sheffield United's win like we have done earlier in this show. We're going to talk about Huddersfield Town. Trying to think what else is on the agenda. I think we're going to talk about Harrogate as well. They've had a really good start down in League Two. So yeah, please do tune in.
Yeah, get on that, everyone. Get on that, especially Yorkshire fans, especially Harrogate Town fans as well. Obviously, a draw at the weekend, but they started really well. In League Two, looking good for them. Anyway, that wraps up the show for this Monday morning. Hope you enjoyed it, and we will catch you soon.